No. I'm sorry, I forgot to mute myself.
Yeah, right. So for everyone out there in audience land, laughing was about my hair. But anyway, so moving on. So here we are, 8 minutes late, which is about par for us. So just having to get everybody together, all together on the Hangout. So, all right, so here we are. So my name is Leslie Rohde, and one of the founders of SEO Braintrust, now Marketers Braintrust, because that's what we really do. And Dan Thies in black and white, because he won't pay for color. He's just that kind of guy. Is there, and then Corey Burke, a newly anointed partner as of 1st of last year. That's not actually that new, is it?
Not that new.
15 months. No, it's
yeah.
Like, but time flies when you're having such much fun. And looking very striking in that plaid. I like that. Is that your own tartan? Is Burke a Scottish name?
Irish.
Irish. Okay, fine. That's close enough.
Yeah.
Very blue for Irish, but fine. Moving on. And then Michelle Chance Sangong. That's not Irish at all.
No.
Sure. No.
Thai.
Sporting what I believe might actually be prison orange.
That's exactly. Orange is the new black, baby.
That's for about, I don't know, 18% of the U.S. population, but don't get me started on that round.
But I also live in Florida, so it could be for the Gators. For clarification, though.
Or for oranges.
Yeah, or oranges.
I mean, Gators are green, so I'm not sure why they used orange.
Well, oranges aren't orange either, Leslie, so let's get to the show.
All right, fine, let's get to the show. Dan, do we want to actually cover any of the news that's news, or do we want to go straight to Organic Profit Engine and how to actually make money with search?
Me.
I know, it kind of bored me too. But the only thing I was interested in is like Shopify has a valuation of $1 billion. $1 billion.
Well,
yeah.
Everybody I know that's using them feels that it's well worth whatever they're paying for it. So.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm thinking that why didn't we actually build a shopping cart? Anyway.
Because you suck at writing code. Okay, move on.
Okay.
I have. If anybody out there is using Odesk, it has now been rebranded as Upwork, and as far as I can tell, the email notifications when you get messages appear not to be working. So if you have work that's in the process, log in and double check that you don't have messages waiting for you.
Wow. Okay. Maybe that's why I haven't heard from my developer in Moscow. And why am I getting an echo?
It's not me.
Your own
It's all
computer,
you.
I think.
It's all you. So Tor wants us to say his name in the event that we're actually live. So Tor. This is us saying your name, Tor.
Tor.
I can spell it. Tor. R's hard. Anyway, yeah.
Little R.
YMCA is so much easier than Tor. That's weird. Okay. Yeah. All right. Great. Yeah, let's just dive into the presentation then. Since the comedic episode is like falling flat. Let me see here.
Oh, one more thing while you're doing that, real quick.
Good.
The Instagram targeting was a bug, but it's nice to know that Facebook has it in there. It was on for a split second and turned off right away. But it will be accessible soon enough, I'm sure.
Interesting. Well, that's intriguing. So they turned it on by accident? Is that what you're saying?
I guess, yeah. It was only on for a little bit and then off, not long enough to really use.
I cried.
Somebody got fired over that one. I'm thinking that's my one. I'm thinking. All right, so let's see. I want to do share screen, and I want to do entire screen. Do the Hall of Mirrors, and then.
We're not seeing that yet, FYI.
Not yet. No.
Okay.
I'm still doing it. Yeah. And I actually haven't presented my other self to everyone.
He has multiple personality disorder.
No, it's not a disorder. It's more of kind of an incredible advantage.
It's not a bug. It's a feature.
It's a feature.
Undocumented feature. I've heard of those.
Yeah, I think it's actually maybe documented. I think most people know that I have that. Anyway, I'm just saying. You probably
We want to talk to Leslie.
And
Which one?
While you're pulling that out, I'm going to shout out to Jacksonville. We had some folks logging in from Jacksonville today. I saw you guys on Facebook. Thanks for being here.
Wow. Jacksonville. Yay. Okay. Here we go. All right, so you should be able to see my screen share now. Is that true?
Yes.
Woo! Yeah, we're good to go. Okay. So this is what I call the organic profit engine. You know, for all of you on this call, I mean, I assume you're all marketers. You must be in business. Why would you ever put up with the crap that we do otherwise, right? Just saying. So you must be in this for the money. It's one way or another. And one of the first rules of marketing is that you want to name what you do. Right? It's part of branding. It's all part of the branding equation. And so this is the organic profit engine. And this actually stems, frankly, from the work that Dan Thies did in 2008 and then culminating in 2009 with Link Liberation 1. And all we've done is, over the years, we've progressed it. Link Liberation 2 was a major launch in the late 2010. We ran, more than 1,000 people, did like more than $2.5 million in a launch in 10 days, which was a pretty exciting time, by the way. And then Link Liberation 3 was released in 2012, just before our very first live event. And again, stellar successes reported in each one of those. In each iteration, Link Liberation 1, 2, and 3, we went and backstoried all the successes that our students have had. Sadly, one of the things we find is that a lot of people actually don't do the work. They buy the course, they don't do the work. And this is just not just us. I mean, it's everybody in the training market. That's the standard. And so for the information marketers out there, just realize that's one of those things that you have to come to grips with. However, what we found is that we had a way to make this really effective, and it's really two things. And so one is the concepts and the techniques and the real methodology of Link Liberation is very powerful. And if you do it, you will absolutely always get great results from organic and social presence on the web. But the challenge for most people is not understanding the ideas or even implementing the methods, at least on a small scale. The trick was that they couldn't really make the process work kind of in the large. They really couldn't get the systems in place to make it work. Now, there are some exceptions. We have some students that are operating this at an extraordinarily high level. And you know who you are. Let's see if they're online right now. Let's see if I can call them out. Let's see. But, there's some folks that are doing this at an extraordinary high level. And, oh, by the way, Corey was one of them. We'll touch on that later. But and so what we found was, that the real essence was not really kind of grokking the concept. It was the implementation. It was like making it actually work. And so starting in the spring of 2014, we decided that, let's actually take this on ourselves. Let's put together a system ourselves so that people could outsource that, if they wanted to, outsource it to us. Now, in the process, in doing that, we evolved the system even more. And admittedly, some things have changed in the marketplace since 2012 as well. So what I want to show you today is really kind of peeling back the curtain. Peeling back the curtain is a mixed metaphor, isn't it? Of what we do internally to do Link Liberation. Now, if we were to actually build the next Link Liberation course and call it Link Liberation 4, that's kind of lame. I was going actually for Link Liberation Pi 3.14. Anyway, so the point is that this is what it would contain. What we're doing right now today is the next evolution, if you will, and it focuses. Most of the principles are the same. It's that the process. It's the process that's really involved. So I'm going to explain that in some detail here, and Corey's going to help me because, by the way, I don't actually do this. It's Corey that does it. He's the one that manages all of our, I've lost track, 30 plus 30, I don't know how many it is. It's more than 30. I don't know the actual number. He's the one that manages all of that. He manages the entire team. He's actually hired the entire team. And so he'll actually kibitz and correct me when I get it wrong, because this is really kind of the executive level overview, frankly. But it is what I'm calling the sketchbook, because it's going to show you how we derived, the process, kind of starting from the basic idea. So let's go through the basic idea. I don't know why that slide was in there. Never mind. Ignore that motivation slide. I assume you're motivated to make money online. Let's move on. So this is standard blogging, okay? You have to have, let's start with, you might actually have to have a blog if you're going to blog. Let's do that. And somebody's going to have to write that stuff, and it's either going to be you or somebody else. And by the way, most people think they have to write their own stuff. Not true. It's really not true. Some stuff we really want you to write, but not most stuff. Most stuff doesn't have to be done in your special voice. Sorry. The reality is that you're not so special that every word that's on your website has to be written by you. That's just not true. Now, of course, in order to batch the work and make it efficient, you should be doing all of the posts at once and then batch, future date them throughout the week, so that things land in people's, news feeds, inbox, whatever, at various times throughout the week. What we don't want to do is do 20 posts on a Monday and then be silent the rest of the week. That's not good. There's a bunch of technical reasons why about the way kind of the infrastructure, if you will, of social and search works. But just, realize that you don't want to do that. You want to batch the stuff. But this is where everything really falls apart for most people, and that's the writing assignments. And this is what I call the failure of keyword research. And there should be a diagram here, but I didn't actually insert it in the slide deck. So here's the problem with keyword research. How does a keyword tool work? It's a look in the rearview mirror. People actually do searches, and then Google aggregates that search data, and then they create this interface called the Google keyword tool. Wait a minute, that stuff is old. It's 30 days old. Some of it older than that. So wait a minute, what if we just followed the conversation in real time? If we just look at the web instead of the old data that provided by the keyword tool, why don't we just do that? Wouldn't that be better? Of course it would be better. And so this is the difference. So this is the organic profit engine blogging machine. We call it publishing rather than blogging, but whatever. We're publishing to a blog, so call it a blogging if you want to. This part's the same. Yes, we have a writer, and we future date posts, and they get posted in a blog. Awesome. That's where the similarity ends. So the first thing is different is, what do we blog about? Instead of writing assignments, no, what we're doing is we're actually following a conversation that's already attractive to the people we're trying to engage with. And we're doing that by coming up with some sort of feed list and using Feedly to tell those writers what's important and what they should be writing about. Something that was added, and Corey can tell me exactly when that was added, is also use BuzzSumo in order to surface things which are more important or trending. And we do this, and we'll talk about this in just a moment, but when we use the standard feeds that we've curated and when we actually use BuzzSumo. And that gets to the writer training. And so instead of training a writer to say, hey, I'm going to give you a topic and I want you to write 500 words about that topic, the training we give our writers and the ones that you give your writers, if you'd like to do this for yourself, should be very different than that. What exactly does it look like? Well, that's tradecraft, but the first thing is what we want to look for is things which are known to be popular. So that's where kind of BuzzSumo comes into play, and we want to use that in particular circumstances. The rest of the time, we want to use things which are very attractive in general to the audience we're trying to attract, and that's where with the feeds that have been curated And we'll talk about how we do that later. And so the writer has to be trained in a particular way in order to really build the base of the content pyramid of link liberation. Right? So, but content's not enough. You could do 100 posts a week. It'd be great. The problem is you may not have an audience. You need human eyeballs. You need actual real people reading your stuff. So how do you do that? You can't actually build it and they will come. It doesn't work that way, at least not as easy as you might think. What you really need to do is you need to be everywhere. And that's okay, because humans are everywhere on the web. We just need to be in front of them. Now, everywhere probably should be in quotes here. We're not going to be everywhere. You don't need to always syndicate to, like, I don't know, Reddit and TechMeme and whatever. No, not everywhere, not every single platform. You do want to pick and choose. You want to prioritize. And so what we've done in our service, as you'll see later, is the top 3 for every market. And there are some additions to that for others. But the top 3 absolutely are Facebook and Twitter and Google+. And you're wondering what the hell is Google+ doing on that list? Does anyone actually use that? And that's a good question. But Google+ actually impacts personalized search, which is the only reason we're using it. Parenthetically, for B2B, LinkedIn is important. For certain kinds of markets and certain kind of products, Pinterest, very important. But we'll get to those later. All right, so be everywhere. That's easy, right? This is how we do it. So not only do we need to post to the blog, right? We also need to push that out to these platforms where we know that our people are. Sadly, there's some tricky bits, and we, had to discover this the way you discover tricky bits by having it break and fixing it. And so the first thing is what we call an abstract. And this gets into a lot of the details of how link liberation works. For those of you who have the course, great. For those of you who don't, you kind of pass over this, just kind of zone out for a moment here. But abstracts are short items, short pieces of text that point to something off of your site. And so you're really just kind of curating news for a person following you. Think of yourself as a clipping service, right? So you're talking to a particular person, a particular avatar, and you're talking about the things that they should be interested in, that they want, that if you're interested in it from that perspective, then they should too. And those are not linking to your site; they're linking within Google+, Twitter, and Facebook. They're linking to the original source. Those are abstracts. Commentary are a little bit different. Commentary are longer pieces. They have a little bit more of your kind of brand to them, and as they're syndicated out there on the social platforms, they are in fact linking back to your website. And this is where it gets a little bit ugly. And it has to do with the way Facebook grabs images as part of their open graph. And so as we've shown it here, commentaries actually go through, deliver it to Facebook. The reality is it goes to the other platforms as well. That's, unfortunately, the diagram's not perfect in that regard. Maybe, Corey, you can help me with that. But we're using 2 entirely separate syndication systems there in order to get around a feature in Facebook, because it's about when Facebook actually grabs the image to associate with that post, and that's critical. Literally, if you did not have deliver it in this equation here to use only Hootsuite, what you ended up with, we know this for a fact, is you end up with images that are 404. And so there's a little bit of like tech here in order to remake the syndication system work. And anyone can do this. I mean, hell, we did, right? Just bear in mind that these platforms work differently and have their own kind of characteristics. And you need to understand those. And in order to really make this system work, you need to get down to the nitty-gritty details. And so that's how that looks. Abstracts go out through Hootsuite. The commentary go out to deliver it, and they actually go to the other platforms as well. I didn't really show that correctly. And then this is what happens in addition to that. Because if all you did was what was shown on this slide here, that's great. There's no doubt about it. And by the way, up until the first of this calendar year, that's what we were doing. We added Facebook amplification. Now, the reason for doing that is that on Facebook, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about there, if you just post to Facebook, you get a certain amount of reach, a certain amount of the people who are connected with you in one way or another, liking or whatever else, right? You will get a certain amount of exposure. If you pay Facebook a little bit of money, and it's a kind of a range, right? If you pay them too much money, it doesn't matter. It rolls off pretty fast. And so there's this threshold where this is like the sweet spot, how much money to pay them. But you can get, I don't know, 8, 15 times as much reach for your content, and much exposure for your content. That's paid organic amplification. It's a quote-unquote native ad. It's still content that occurs in the news feed for that person. It's just that you're given priority because you're paying the money, and let's face it, money talks. Facebook is going to show your content more in that person's news feed than they would otherwise because you've paid to be there. You could argue that that's somehow unfair, and whatever. But okay, it works, by the way. So you should be doing that as a marketer. You should be doing that. Take your best stuff and amplify it. That's what we do.
You get two advantages from that, Leslie. Not only do you get more paid reach, you also get more organic reach. That is, so more people will see it organically from other people sharing it if you just pay a little money than you are going to get just by posting without paying for the ads. The other thing too is that doing it pure organically is fine if you've already got a large audience in the channel, but well, fine. I mean, obviously you'd be able to do better with paid amplification. Yeah. But doing a little bit of paid amplification also helps you build your audience. You get more fans to your Facebook page, and so the effects of this, the value of this, continue to increase as we go.
Right, and the ratio between the paid and organic can shift dramatically. And as I recall, from all of the numbers we have there, the longer we do that, the more kind of leverage we get, right? So when we first start out, it may very well be that the ratio of paid to organic is pretty lopsided in the sense that most of the reach we're getting is really from the paid. But as we do more in that, we get a much larger audience, and so then the leverage increases dramatically. I think that's
there are so many things with Facebook advertising where really the value of the audience that you're building and the cost of advertising goes down. It's really a channel that continues to improve over time as long as you stay consistent in the channel.
Yeah.
The other thing to keep in mind, for most people at least, is that when you do an organic post, that goes out to people that are already connected to you. And when you pay to promote something, if done a certain way, it's going out to brand new people. So you're always pulling new people into your content and getting it in front of new people that aren't already attached to your fan page. And I think that's so beneficial even if you have a large page already.
Good point. Yeah. And so that's that's one of the bigger things we added. We added several things at in the first quarter of this year, but that was one of them. And 100% of the time where we've done that, it's been a really big impact for our clients. So if you're gonna post to Facebook, important safety tip, really absolutely look at this. You definitely want to be using paid organic amplification. A lot of people don't even know about it, and that's to their detriment. So an opportunity for you to get ahead of the pack. All right. So now, how do we actually set this up? Because you can see that there's some, there's some pieces, significant pieces of this. So the process that we use starts with this notion of a guided avatar process. We need to know who are we trying to attract. And this is one of the big things, I should have a series of slides about this as well, is that we're not talking on your blog, we're not talking about your product or service. we're talking about the life and times, needs, wants, and desires of your target customer base, your target prospect base. What we're doing is we're out there in the really wide end of the funnel. View, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks back, whenever it was, we talked about, let's see, what was the title of that one? It had to do with Google Analytics, but it's about understanding the multiple touches that people will have with you before they actually become a client. And so you want to touch them as soon as possible out there in the informational stage before they're actually doing a commercial search. And to the extent that you can do that on a repetitive basis, you become the brand leader, and subliminally, they don't even know why they selected you over someone else. They probably didn't even check your shipping versus somebody else's shipping, right? The reality is that they're tied to you because they know that you are the expert in the field. And you can easily establish that through this informational content that touches them early in the process. But in order to do that, you have to understand, who is it I'm trying to attract? Not what product or service am I trying to sell, but what group of people am I trying to attract? And that's your avatar. And so, a marketing specialist, being Corey in their case, guides their clients through the avatar process. And that creates a series of assets, but a checklist in particular, which drives the identification and selection of Facebook content sources. We're using Facebook because it's a wonderful platform to kind of unwind the social web, so we can find people who are related to people, companies who are related to companies, right? And come up with that feed list, which, as you'll remember from a few slides back, is one of the items that actually drives the writer's assignments. And so what we're doing is we're using stuff that's already timely. It's happening in real time. Whatever's happening in the people that we find in Facebook, it's not necessarily on Facebook. It could be their own blogs or whatever. But we find the thought leaders and movers and shakers using Facebook, and we follow them. And that is that timely data that gets us, 30 to 45 days ahead of keyword research. That feed list is what is actually driving the assignments that our writers use in developing content. And then, of course, the other thing is based upon the avatar plus our standard internal, procedures about how our writers select what. That's the writer training. That's the crib sheet that writer is using, he or she, in order to select what is actually written about. Now, you'll notice there's another, parallel track here, which involves a photo editor and sourcing and branding of photos. And again, that's driven from the avatar profile. We need to find things which are going to be attractive to the avatar. The reason we need photos is because within the context of Facebook, you really can't effectively amplify something that's not graphic. And so what we're doing currently is, for the single best commentary within a week, we're going to source the photo, and we're going to brand that with a person's domain name or logo. If they have a logo, that's great. And then we're going to amplify that post. But we're definitely going to put a photo on it in order to amplify it. And we're sourcing all those ourselves, and that kind of thing, right? So sourcing and branding themselves. Those get uploaded into the blog, and then they get selected by the writer before that commentary gets posted. That's a critical piece. You really can't do the amplification piece without also doing the sourcing of photos. Okay. Now, branding the photos, I believe I don't actually have any data on this, but I believe it's critical. So, think Nike billboards, right? A woman running in the rain, all you can see is tennis shoes and legs. And pretty standard, Portland. Actually, it's any season. It's raining, and there's a Nike swoosh at the bottom of the billboard. That's it. There's no text. All they're trying to do is one more time, show you your logo. Now, within the context of what we do online and Facebook ads, okay, you can have some text. That'd be great. Text outside the boundary of the photo, so you don't blow the 20% rule that Facebook requires in terms of being able to promote something. But definitely we want to put your branding on that photo. So when it does get passed around, they're getting that impression. They're getting that brand impression, which is going to ultimately help in leveraging the sale within the narrow part of the funnel. Let's see here. What's our next one? Oh yeah, so we'll go through the process here. The avatar profile conducted by somebody who actually understands it, by the way. A lot of people don't understand it. We've had a lot of pushback from clients. Why do I have to tell what kind of car they have? In fact, let's sidebar that for a moment. And so, gosh, I'm trying to remember exactly. And we're going to send out our particular avatar checklist and some other items as well. But it's like, okay, what car do they drive? Well, okay, how does that matter? Well, here's why it matters. People are not choosing your brand relative to other brands in a different way than they chose a car. The reality is we all have in our brain, we have a very small, like, well, call it a 1, routine running, one selection process running. We've got a certain set of things which are important to us, values and criteria. And Loya, we'll get to the 20% rule here in a bit. And so they have these decisions, we all have these decisions we're making. And we're making those decisions about brand based upon these values and criteria that we have. And so whether you buy a Volvo or a Porsche or an Audi is about those value and criteria. And those value and criteria are the same ones you're using to buy everything else. So whether you shop at Walmart or Kroger or Publix or Fred Meyer or whatever store is local in your market, right? Though the way you made that decision deep down is the same way you made the decision about what car you drive. Now I know that's kind of bizarre, and you might want to take a moment to introspect about that, but just realize the reason to do the avatar profile and find out how many kids exactly, not 2.5, on a national average of kids, it's exactly how many kids, and exactly what age, not 35 to 42, and what car, not some sports car, no, what sports car. We're trying to nail down as specifically as possible so we can understand what are the value criteria being used by that person to make decisions. Because whatever those are, in order to, and one of those is not going to tell the story. You have to look at all of them in terms of how are they making these decisions. Because the way they make those decisions is the same way they're going to make the decision about how to connect with you. So, that's a sidebar. That's probably, that deserves its own hangout. Maybe we'll get to that later. Yeah.
Hey, Leslie?
Yes.
I have another example of that I ran into recently.
Please.
And again, just a quick example. If you think, oh, okay, we have a client, motorcycles are part of his avatar, one of his avatar are people that own motorcycles. But if you don't hone in on what type of motorcycle, your content in your ad is going to be very different. Somebody that rides a crotch rocket versus a Sportster. Back in the day, I did ads where it was more of a Sportster style motorcycle, and I promoted it to all sorts of different motorcycles. And It didn't do nearly as well as when I promoted it to people that like Harley Davidson and Sportster and Yamaha, as opposed to the Ducati and Suzuki and those types of things. So it really does help with your promotion, attraction, and affinity. And that doesn't mean you can't run two different ads or talk about both types of content. It just means when you go into to really try to connect with that person, you want to have a congruent message to market match all the way through.
Indeed, yeah, and I mean, I ride a bike, and so crotch rocket, as you saw, or rice burner, as they're colloquially called, by us, but anyway. So, but yeah, so it's it's like there was a particular experience where I had somebody notice the T-shirt I had on, and they were motorcycle owners as well, and so they were guessing what kind of motorcycle I had, and they guessed a so-called, this is terminology, right, metric bagger. You know, and so a bagger is a touring bike, and metric means it's like a Honda, Kawasaki, whatever, as opposed to a non-metric bagger, which is basically it's going to be Harley Davidson, Indian, and a very small number of others. And so, you know, within the motorcycle community, within that ethos, right, there's like probably 3, maybe 4, you know, kind of categories of different bikers. And when you understand that kind of segmentation, right, you realize that the people who ride, you know, so-called crotch rockets are very different than people who ride, you know, touring bikes like what I have. They're very different, typically in age, typically in spending power. You know, I think my tires might cost as much as a crotch rocket, but you know. So age, spending power, absolutely, and in terms of other factors too, about how risk averse they are, okay, things like that. And so those are important characteristics to understand about how you actually message that community. And so if my community is people who actually ride, you know, crotch rockets, I'm going to talk about, you know, the excitement and risk and kind of like dominating the world and those kind of things. Whereas if I'm talking about people who ride Harleys, it's the older demographic because of the amount of expense involved typically. And it's also going to be more about the experience and the lifestyle aspect as opposed to risk and excitement. Those are important things to understand because you weave those kind of that kind of language within not just not your blog content, but all of your marketing, and you are going to resonate much more strongly with your intended audience. So yeah, really good example, by the way, Corey. Probably better than Porsche and Volvo, by the way. Anyway, and so then there's this final thing, and you know, it's one of those things I kind of forgot about. And most people do. I mean, we do it, and I actually even forgot to add it to the you know, bullets in the sales letter, which was kind of bad on me. But you want to make sure that as you're building that asset online, that you actually cover it. So one of the things we do, 2 things we do, are shown on this diagram. It's one of those, oh yeah, I forgot. Make sure you don't forget. Make sure that you update your damn blog. So make sure that WordPress is updated and make sure all your plugins are updated. There can be significant issues both in performance and security when you don't do that. The other thing is make sure you actually back the stuff up. Like for our clients, we're doing 15 items a week. And so if you don't back it up, you make considerable loss in not just content, but a whole bunch of broken links, 404 errors. You know, you get a message in Google Analytics, and Webmaster Tools. It's kind of a bad thing if you lose a bunch of stuff and have to roll back, right? And in fact, this really happened. Recently with one of our clients who was had their blog hosted within the Yahoo environment, all right? Important safety tip, don't do that. Yahoo says that they have a WordPress hosting environment, but it is about half or 3/4 broken. For example, they sort of have an htaccess file where you can do redirects, but it's actually they sort of fake the htaccess file, so you really can't. It's ugly. And so literally we had a situation where the person's blog, which was at a blog.theirdomain.com, that was offline. We didn't know about it until, you know, okay, we noticed, or I can't remember, we noticed or client noticed. Anyway, whichever it was, Yahoo didn't tell us about it, didn't tell his client about it. What happened is, oh, we did? Thank you.
Yeah.
And so, well, turns out Yahoo stopped handling subdomains correctly. And so first of all, we thought we screwed something up because we were doing some enhancements to the blog. Then it comes out that no, we didn't. They did. And so we started a discussion with them, which is lengthy, hours on hold for one of my technical people. And they couldn't get it fixed. And after, I mean, weeks of them saying it would be 2 days, well, 3 weeks of it being 2 days, we took our most recent backup and we hosted our own damn selves. So just realize that having a backup can be very important. Years and years ago, I had a client his hosting facility was in Florida. It was hit by a hurricane. I don't remember what year it was. It would probably tell us what hurricane it was. And the data center was fine. It was fully powered. It's just that there was no connectivity. And so he was literally without a website for 2.5 weeks. Now, the kind of impact that has to your business is horrible, just horrible. So you want to make sure that you're covering your assets. So it's kind of an aside there, but an important one. So here's the executive summary. This is what the whole thing looks like at a 30,000-foot view, right? And so obviously there's some setup to do. So we have somebody who understands what we do in depth, because we haven't done it for years. And we have somebody who's been trained in terms of sourcing photos. And that process, there's a lot of interaction with the client right up front, so we understand what the avatar is. And then this is the real core of the system. This is the thing that operates as a machine involving people, right, and tools in order to create content on an ongoing basis. And then we've got getting eyeballs onto that content. That's the syndication aspect, and that's like drawing that audience into the content that we've already designed to be attractive to that audience. And then finally, enhancing that with amplification. And oh, by the way, there's this thing stuck out here, all by itself. This thing, there are so many different ways that it can go awry, could go off the rails, that if you're not paying attention, if you don't have somebody paying attention who knows what it's supposed to look like, well, yeah, good luck with that. I'm just saying. And so there are 2 ways to win with this system. And obviously, you should know what the 2 ways are. You could build it, and between this presentation and the other things that we're going to make available to everybody that's following us on our list, you could build it. Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, link liberation, the very first time Dan taught it in 2009, all the way to the last release of it, which was 2012. But we've continued to write about this. We've continued to talk about it. We've tried to, describe to people, and we're pretty open about all the things you need to do. There's not any rocket surgery involved here. You can actually do it, or you could outsource it. The make or buy decision here is whether or not you can do it at our price. And so the reality is, I don't think anyone can. I mean, we haven't actually found an agency partner that can figure out how we do it, let alone how they could repeat it. So literally at $1,497 a month, which is our base price for this service, you're talking about paying a person $9 an hour to outsource this to. Now, if you want to do it yourself, great. Just bear in mind that you have just assigned yourself a salary of $9 an hour. That's horrible if true. I don't think within the continental U.S. there's not one single person we pay $9 an hour. They're all higher than that.
Not to mention the fact that minimum wage is going to go up to 15 in some places.
Oh God, seriously? Oh.
Yeah, like Seattle and San Fran and stuff like that.
Way to go, Corey. Now you got Leslie started on that.
Oh, geez, oh no. Yeah, now I've got to review where we have people and whether or not we're abiding by local law. It's great. Thanks.
Well, it's not there yet, and it's not there in California.
Yeah, well, it'll be there first, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably. And so, but that's the thing you want to look at. And to make a buy decision, you have to know 2 different things, right? One is what kind of skills can you get at what price? And then the other is what is your own opportunity cost? When you say about, as a business owner, right, of a growing company, what's my hourly rate? Well, whatever's left over at the end of the month, right? No, that's not the way to think about it. The way to think about it for you, the business owner, is in terms of opportunity cost. That is to say, how do I best optimize the return on an hour? So what is my time worth? That's what opportunity cost is. And so in general, if you have any kind of a business at all, it's in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And my opportunity cost is huge. The hour that I spend doing strategy work, doing promotional work, or whatever, is massive. I mean, compared to $9 an hour, it's nothing. Compared to anything that anyone in our organization has paid, it's way more than that. And that's the way it should be. As the leader of your organization, you should be doing the work that has a high leverage over the bottom line, or the future growth of the business. And so if you really want to opt for the first choice of build it, great, but bear in mind that you want to be looking carefully at what is your management contribution. How much time are you going to spend in doing this, and what is that time worth? Because it doesn't take very many hours a week to completely blow past an average cost of $9 an hour. The only reason that we're able to do this is because we're doing it for multiple clients. For example, if we were only going to do this for ourselves, let's look at the totality of what we've got. We've got let's see, we got 4 hours a week, right? Corey told me I'm wrong. We got 4 hours a week for one writer, and then we've got you, and we've got 2 VAs, and we've got we start adding it up. It's horrible.
No, it's 4 hours a day.
Oh,
5 days a week. It's 20 hours a week.
For us?
You just mean for Marketers Braintrust? No, that's
yeah.
5. Oh no, you're right. 4 hours.
Yeah. Right. So then now here's the problem, right? So I'm going to go hire a guy who can work for me for 4 hours a week. Okay, well that's special to start with. That means he's doing a lot of other things, or he's living under a bridge, right? Because you can't afford to pay him very much. And so okay. See, where you have these little increments of people that you have to buy, it makes it really hard to buy them. Okay, just saying. On the other hand, how many writers do we have working for us now, Corey? 6. We have 6. I didn't even know the number. Which anyway, moving on. When you can scale up, when you can do a capacity, that's how you get to a highly efficient number. If you're going to do this only for yourself, I would recommend you don't do that. Now, actually, we have one of our clients who's actually thinking about doing that, as Corey told me today, and I'll go through the math with him on that at a later day. But generally, what we find is even agencies, even consulting agencies, which we have at this point, I have to go through the numbers. I want to say it's about a quarter of the people that we're doing the service for have probably been introduced by an agency, but whatever the number is, we haven't actually found an agency that can beat us in terms of the price. Why? You see, it's not about the method per se. The methodology is absolutely important, critical, and there's some subtleties that you have to get right to make it work. But the real key is the stuff that's behind the curtain. It's the process features. It's about getting it efficient. That's the thing that actually makes it work. So I would encourage you, if you want to do that, by all means, dig into it. Just realize what you have to be good at is the process. Either way you want to go.
One more thing.
Sorry, go ahead, Corey.
Our writers are in the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if that was said or not, but they're all in the U.S. They're all vetted by myself, and they all have college education in journalism or English or writing. And so this isn't like we're able to charge so little because we go over to the Philippines.
Or India. Yeah, right.
Yes. Get one person in the Philippines to write one article and then spin it 1,000 times, right?
Yes, that is how we do it. And
yeah, right. Yeah.
No, not even close.
Not even close. And that's a good point. We should cover that. That's a very fine. That's a fair point. Just like I forgot to mention, we're doing backups and updates. Oh yeah, okay, we should actually point that out too. Our focus on English-speaking countries. We have obviously customers in the U.S. Strange enough, UK, AU, and there's some other places as well that are focused on American markets. A brand in Israel, for example, that's focused primarily on the U.S. market. And so it's critical in order to attract your avatar that you're attractive to your avatar. I mean, that's sort of a box. Anyway, so you really want to make sure that you're writing at the level that is going to be that's they're gonna engage with. And so what
this isn't about fooling machines. This is about getting people interested.
Yes, and so
very different than what people did a lot of the time for SEO back in the day.
Indeed, back in the day being what, 6 months ago, right? Yeah. So, or last week. So yeah, what we're looking for is to actually attract those people. And so in order to attract those people, it can't be too high or too low, right? We can't write like a PhD dissertation. We also can't write like the person doesn't understand English. It's got to be right there in the middle where those people live. So it's really got to, for the American market, it's got to be that that middle tier. And so the occasional grammatical or spelling error, well, that's normal on the web. All right, we're not going to like fire somebody over that. But at the same time, we've got to make sure that they're good, quote unquote, good writers, at least by, judged by the 80% of the population. And so there is not a single person writing for us, of those, now I know 6, that is not a resident of the United States and is not a native English speaker.
If there is a misspelling, that's just us using LS, latent semantic indexing.
Oh, please.
I'm kidding.
Oh, God. Oh, geez, calling an airstrike on Corey's house. So, but
that's why we don't let Leslie have drones.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's the reason drones are outlawed for Leslie. Yeah, and so, but yes, that's a good point. And definitely, I think we should call it out because a lot of people can. Oh, it's like, oh yeah, no problem. I can do. As Paul asked, how many abstracts and commentaries per month are posted? And so let me get into numbers on that. And this is our base service, and depending upon what market you're in, you might require more than this. And that's one of those things it's a judgment call. And it's the reason that we actually wanted to take a look at your website and talk to you first, so we can make sure that we provide a proper prescription. But our base service, which is it's been extraordinarily effective for the vast majority of businesses, is 15 items per week. Now that's composed of 2 abstracts per day and 1 commentary per day, 5 days a week. And those are batched out. I mean, they're written all at once. They're batched, so they come out at different times a day. Every single one of those is syndicated to Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. The best commentary, and actually the number's a little higher than that if you do the, because a month is 4.2 weeks, right? So
the 0.2.
Yeah. Anyway, so whatever the math is there. But the best commentary per month is the one that's promoted each week. And that's where we've sourced and branded a photo, and then we run that all week, and then change the next week. And we've looked at different ways of doing that, and so far that seems like the best way. As things move on, we may actually change it. We actually, strangely enough, reserve the right to make it better, which we did a couple of different times. At the beginning of the year, we added amplification, we added the branding of photos, which is part of that. I forget what else we did. We did something else too. We added something else to the service. But that's the essence of it, right? And what are the things you could add to it? If you wanted to actually extend what we've done, hey, knock yourself out. For B2B, we're looking at including LinkedIn. It makes a lot of sense. For certain kinds of products, certain kinds of markets, we're looking at adding Pinterest. We're looking at doing so-called hero content, so longer form content. We're looking at the possibility of adding a service where we can do non-money call to actions. And so let's think about what we're doing here. Wide part of the funnel, right? We're looking at the wide part of the funnel. We're trying to attract people before they search for your product or service. We're trying to attract people, not product or service. The people we're trying to attract are the ones who may be, or most likely to be, interested in your product or service. Get those people attached to your brand, so in some moment of time, oh, yeah, that's the guy I want to talk to. A lot of synergies there in terms of remarketing and things like that we don't need to go into.
Yep.
That's Andy had a good question. And he says, any advice on how to do plumbing with LinkedIn? I have clients in B2B space. One thing is Facebook's continuing to improve their platform, and they actually have B2B targeting now. Another thing is I've heard Dan Kennedy say this, and it was Lee Iacocca buys his golf clubs sitting on the toilet just like everybody else. So you're not going after a business, you're going after a person.
Right.
You know? And so you can still, LinkedIn is great. It's good to get in there and capitalize on that platform. And we're working on getting that in place because we have some clients in the B2B space. The thing with LinkedIn is most of the people that are on there are doing very self-serving, self-promotional type pieces of content. They're making the mistake everybody makes, which is, if I'm going to blog, I need to write about my product or service, which, unless you're in a tier 1 market, isn't true. You need to write for the avatar's interest.
That's so true. And there are some existing APIs. I mean, we have some internal tools that already know how to talk to LinkedIn. We're just trying to combine it into our existing process and decide, where do we actually use it, where do we not use it, what's the right kind of content to put out there. But indeed, what you say, Corey, is absolutely right. Attract the avatar, right? And I mean, most people, certainly on LinkedIn, oh my God, the people on LinkedIn seem to be the least savvy about content marketing, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I see the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there obviously there are exceptions. I mean, we know people. Ryan Dice posts marketing articles about funnels usually, and he posts those things on LinkedIn, and he promotes those LinkedIn posts through Facebook, and that's been a really productive channel for them. Not just from a lead generation perspective, but also just the branding effect of sending people to an article on LinkedIn. A lot of people think that he was invited to post that by LinkedIn. Of course, everybody's invited to post whatever they want on LinkedIn, just like any other social platform. But I believe that Hootsuite and Deliverr actually are likely to be our solution for actually pumping content to LinkedIn, right?
Deliverr is what we're looking at. It's really just an issue of being able to tie into the clients in a scalable way, meaning, do they share their page with us? Do we have to become a manager of their page like we do for Google Plus and Facebook, or do they have to share their login like Twitter? And that's the biggest headache right now, is just figuring out an easy, safe, consistent way to be able to plumb into their LinkedIn account.
Yeah, anything that doesn't need us to have their password written down, how to post it on the writer's desk.
There's that.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's not even shown in these diagrams. It's how is that within our organization we actually, can share the access in a way that is both safe to the client and effective in our organization. And we use LastPass. And so literally, our writers gain access to your WordPress blog without ever knowing the password, because LastPass hides the password from it. Now, I will grant a full disclosure, it's not 100% perfect, but you have to be a damn good cracker to break it.
Well, that's the enterprise version of LastPass, not the personal version.
Right? That's a good point. Yes, we're doing the enterprise version of LastPass. You're right. Within personal version, you're right. You're right. You don't have that hiding capability. So I'm sorry, I missed over that too. Right. Just like backups. Oh, well, everyone knows that. No, not everyone does. And so yes, with enterprise LastPass, we can share the client logins in a safe way that's both safe for the client and effective for our team. Same kind of thing that Corey's talking about, all this like little detailed plumbing stuff. Wow, you'd be amazed how that will trip you up. God, let's not even get into the lengthy issues we have with Facebook's about that, right? Or what we have to do around AdWords management clients in order to provide the right level of access for certain people and different level of access for other people, without having a phone call, I think literally, right, from Google about it. So, those are things from an agency perspective. As soon as you have more than one client, you're going to run into these things. And they're not necessarily happy. You have to work through them, right? If you're doing it on your own, okay, not so bad, but on the other hand, you don't have the economies of scale either, and so good luck with that. Unless you're going to find a native English speaker in Bangalore, not Maine, India, you know, you're not going to be able to beat, the price that we pay writers, which, within the U.S. is less than $15 an hour, and our aggregate cost to deliver service to a client, is less than $9. And so it's about scale. There's so many things that work really well at scale. That's the key. Michelle, what were you trying to say?
I was just actually going to, just as an added perk to all of this with SEO, because that's kind of cool, is all at once, though, you are everywhere and you are visible everywhere. So if you're one of these companies that's having a hard time wrapping around your head about, what do I put on Facebook except buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff? Now all at once your Facebook is being filled with things that your people actually care about. If someone comes to research your company, they can see on your site that your site's growing. They can see on your Facebook that you're alive, right? And so it not only gives the whole benefit of SEO and content marketing, but you actually look like you're a company that's alive and active and doing something in the marketplace.
Well, yeah, and I think that's, to a certain extent, that's about where people run into, well, I sell X and it's boring, and how much can I write about it? And so they only post once a month, right?
Right. They don't know, and I have another client I'm working with right now, and everything is, well, why don't you just tell people we have stuff on sale? Well, why don't we just introduce people to the product and the concept and talk about why this is cool for them, and, by the way, talk about the things that they'd be interested in, as opposed to just going buy my stuff. And so that's always a big recurring theme I see with clients is they have a very hard time breaking away from this buy my stuff mentality.
Yeah, indeed.
That's an excellent point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think it also answers Joseph's question, which is he has a customer who fixes transmissions. How can content marketing help his business? You got to think of the avatar. Is it a single mom whose minivan broke down and now she can't get her kids to school and soccer games and stuff? That's an avatar, and you can put out content that would relate to her and how she can trust you.
Yeah, and I think let's develop that one. I mean, we're doing some work for one of Joe's companies anyway, but for that, I would say it's how does that particular and we want to start with, so think about how avatar relates to kind of like market segment, right? So avatar is much more finely defined than say market segment. And it may be the thing that stands in place of market segment for a lot of what you do. So that you know that, well, this is the person I'm talking about. So the 35-year-old soccer mom with a minivan and 3 kids, or maybe 2, maybe 3, not 2.5. No, 2.5. Right, because that would be horrible. but so that maybe that's the one you use as when you're sitting down to write, you're writing to that person. But it's attractive to other people. Maybe people with only 1 kid, maybe people with 5 kids, maybe they don't have a minivan, maybe they have an SUV, maybe they have a whatever, right? And so, so it bleeds out a little bit from that. So, but whatever your segment is, right, it's going to contain 1 or more avatars. You write to the avatars. Now, and so one of the things you want to look at is like, so who does that transmission repair company, serve? Where are they positioned in a marketplace? Based upon where they're located, they're going to be more accessible to a certain demographic, psychographic, financial graphic than other ones. There's going to be, because we're not going to drive 50 miles to a transmission repair place. That would be impossible. And so they're going to serve their immediate area, and so they need to look at who's in their immediate area, whatever their service radius is. Who is that person, right? And so that's where we start digging into a little bit more depth about what are they interested in, what do they do, what's going on. And maybe you really need a community portal. I know that that Phil's done that before. I don't know if that makes sense here, but certainly where they are priced against their competition, their the recurring theme of their messaging is going to be a little bit different. And so if they're after we're the safest, most secure choice as opposed to the most economical choice, those are two different messages and two different groups of people. And so even if it's a soccer mom, is this a soccer mom on a shoestring, or is this a soccer mom that's got lots of disposable? Those are different people. Those are different avatars.
And to give you another idea, would be the makes and models of the car. So is it German car? Because I can't take my car to most of the shops because I don't work on German cars necessarily. Or if I want them to, you know, I have to pay. Yeah. That you can also go after people that like AAA. You know, so now you know if they like AAA, chances are they have it. Now you know they can tow their car there. So you can talk about that in your messaging. You can talk about the concept of having a shuttle and driving them to work if you think they work, or having a shuttle and driving their kids to school or something. I mean, there are different ways that you can reach out to these people through your content marketing that doesn't. Those were about you more than the avatar, but it's still a really good way to start talking about what their worries are in their head as this is going on.
Well, those are great ideas, because I don't think you can separate more. You know, I don't think you separate about me versus about the avatar, right? I mean, as a business, right? It's like avatar for like a AAA, right? So if a person has AAA, what does that say about them? That says that they are planning. They're saving for a rainy day, right? They've already thought about, oh gosh, what if I break down, right? They have AAA, as opposed to a person who's like, hey, you know, whatever, I'll sleep under a bridge for the night.
Right.
Right? And so it's like, you know, a person who has AAA, you know, this towing thing, oh, that means they're planning ahead. Well, for that person, what I want to make damn sure I do is I want to make sure I offer them, you know, some callback service, some update, maybe even some sort of continuity thing. Like, if that's the person I can say, you know what, Mrs. Robinson, actually she probably didn't have AAA. Anyway, so what we can do for you is we can make sure we put you on a callback system so that when it comes time for your oil change, that we're going to, you know, reach out to you and remind you about that, so you can come in and, by the way, you get a 10% discount as a value customer. Right? Where the person is like, I've looked you up online and you were the first listing and I don't give a shit. Well, that's not the person you're going to offer that to, right?
And then if you were to layer, say, AAA with Yelp, you can offer, I mean, you can really go after people that are going to help your business by thinking about the avatar that way. Because if you do a good job and they like Yelp on Facebook, they probably use Yelp, and you can hit them after you're done with a survey and drive them to Yelp to leave a review.
True enough.
There's so much stuff we could talk about this, and we're already 16 minutes over, so I'm going to shut up, but I get excited about this. So great question, Joseph.
Yeah, that's it's kind of the essence of it, right? It's like you can think about, well, transmission repair is a service, but who's the person? Right. That's kind of the thing. Have you guys been watching the comments here? Do we need to like you know, go through these before we sign off?
Probably should just scooch through them. Scooch through them there, Leslie.
Scooch? Did you say scooch?
I did say scooch.
Huh.
Shut up and scooch, Leslie.
Most of them are done. I know one, Terry says, do you work with clients to create a content calendar so other content activities, advertising, promotion, events are collaborated in advance? Honestly, most of the time our clients aren't thinking that far in advance. and what we're doing is more in advance than what they have going on.
But wouldn't that be cool, Corey, if clients were planning ahead and we could?
Yes.
Well, and you know what, you can just let the engagement reports we send every week about, you know, what got the most social reach and what got the most, you know, engagement. Just use that as a clue about what you should write about. I mean, seriously, just let the data tell you what to do. I think that's the thing. And that may be, by the way, I mean, you know, maybe one of those things that we ought to notice and recommend to people as like red flags and stuff, or maybe we should be a green rather than a red, the green being good. is like, hey, this was 5 times more than the average, and so do something about this. You know, write one hero post about this topic because this obviously resonated greater than all the others.
Oh, that's a good example. We had one client. Now this is pretty unheard of. For the week-long promotion we did for their post, they got 390 link clicks into the site.
Nice.
Now that's really, really good. I was shocked. So I'm glad to share that with them. But yeah, they could, and that's on a commentary. So now they can.
We'd insert the FTC disclaimer here that your mileage may vary.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Sorry, moving on.
And so the client could totally take that idea and create hero content off of that, and then we can promote it again.
And by the way, this is part of the way that we're looking at the possibility of doing hero content, is just using what we've built in terms of the base of the content pyramid and figuring out, letting that surface for us what memes we should emphasize, what topics we should really drive. Because we're not going to go back to, it's like, okay, we have to do some hero content. What should we do? Oh, let's do some keyword research. Wrong. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to use the conversation of the audience to do that. And so this is kind of a lightweight version of that. It's just look at your weekly, social impact and let that guide what you should do the next week in terms of your editorial calendar. Yeah.
What do they care about? Oh my gosh.
Let's see. Is there a minimum search volume through the Google keyword tools to ensure a niche is going to be profitable? Well, no, or yes.
Well, no. And the SEO is not a business.
Yeah, SEO is not a business.
It's a marketing channel.
Yeah. I see a lot of similarities. Oh, okay. I've got LL3 and see a lot of similarities. Well, wow, that's amazing. Other than FB amplification, what changes have you made to the plumbing? Probably should use, if this and that, and posty, if I remember correctly. There actually have been a lot, but they're in the details, and the devil is in the details. And so one of the things we found, so let's talk about that. That's good, and that reminds me of the other major change we made in our service. And so first of all, we brought in a whole bunch of clients in the spring of last year, then later once again in the summer and then the fall. And what we found is that many of those customers were very successful. And in some isolated cases, they were not. And it's because they did not have certain foundational things set up, and kind of our bad, really. We were assuming some things that were not true, and so one was, oh, well, their blog is okay, not, oh, their Google Analytics is okay, not. And we try to work with those clients to get those things set up, and as one thing leads to another, that doesn't actually happen. And so now our service is that in the very first month of a 90-day period that we require you to be in for on content marketing, we do all that for you. And so we compared to Link Liberation 3 in the actual content of the course. I mean, the major differences, I would say the significant differences are, one is we're now absolutely 100% explicit about what your blog needs to have in the way of engagement features. Because if your blog does not engage the audience when they first hit you, you lose, okay? I mean, when you think about it, what we want to have happen is there's a person who hasn't thought about your product yet, but is attracted to your brand or message because of long-tail content, because of the stuff in the wide part of the funnel. As soon as that person hits you the first time, we want to keep them on your blog until the moment in time that they're interested in your product. And so we want to keep them. We want your content to keep them from discovering your competitors. Now, in the reality, it can't be done, right? We don't have that much control over their brain. Well, we're working on that. But that's the idea. So the important aspect of your blog is engagement. We want to have low bounce rate, high time on site, high number of pages viewed. We want to have a significant amount of clicks, calls to action, events from the blog to your main site. Those are the things which are going to make that successful. And it's just as, oh gee, I forgot. Yeah, we also update your plugins and back up your site. It's one of those things that we assume everyone does. Not, okay. Well, same thing with a blog. It's like, oh well, yeah, I didn't realize that so many of your blogs suck. And it's a sad thing, but many people build these very wonderful-looking blogs. In fact, I would say 80% of all new clients have wonderful-looking blogs. But they suck from an engagement perspective. They don't provide a way for the person to stay there. The assumption somehow is that I have this one article that's on my homepage, and people are going to love that and stick around. Wrong. We don't know why they hit your homepage. Your homepage is the worst possible place for us to know how they got there and what they want. So instead, we have to give them lots of opportunities to engage with your brand, and that's one of the big failings of kind of blogs in general, and the reason that content marketing may not be very effective for you. So that's the first thing. The other thing is measuring success. How do we know it's being successful? Right now, I guarantee you, you could be having success from organic, from SEO, so-called, and you wouldn't know it. Review. It was 2 weeks ago we did that on the model comparison tool. Go review that.
Yeah.
Could very well be that you already are seeing success from SEO and you don't even know it. Maybe. So those things are now upfront pieces. Those have to be done, and they have to be done for 2 reasons. One is you're not going to be successful unless you have a blog that engages your first-time visitor and keeps them around. Second thing is you have to know what's working and what's not working. And then, well, gosh, there's actually a third thing is if we can't do those things for you, at the end of 90 days, you're not going to know whether we did a good job. So those are big pieces, and they're not explicitly called out in Link Liberation 3, frankly, because we didn't realize that, gosh, most people aren't doing them. So sorry about that. Long answer, Brad, but anyway. What else am I missing here?
Terry had an interesting question. He said for existing business, and this is something we hear a lot, I think, is, oh, it's just not cost effective for small businesses or local businesses. And he says for existing businesses, it would seem that they would have to be generating more than $4,300 to support this, assuming 35% gross margins. So this program would probably not focus on startups unless they were willing to invest to get business growth. And I think whether it's a startup or a local business, I've heard the same thing over and over again the last handful of years in Skype and such. So what's your feedback on that?
So to begin with, right, there's going to be an investment period prior to, kind of crossing. The streams have to cross, just like Ghostbusters. Except in this case, the streams crossing is good, not bad. You don't actually end the universe or whatever the hell happened there. And so you're going to have some sort of investment that you're going to have to do in SEO, and I don't care what it is. You can have some guy go build links for you. Please don't do that, by the way. But there's going to be an investment period, right? And then there's going to be a return period, and the return period is going to grow, and it's going to be delayed and slower than the investment period. And I will guarantee you that's true. The reason is that SEO is a payment to assets, the payment to capital account, not a current account. So, generally accepted accounting principles, right? When I pay $1 for PPC, I get hopefully more than $1 back. That's a current account expense, and the return is banked immediately, is cash on cash, and we're done. Right? That's it. There's no residual associated with it.
Well, if your average customer takes 60 days to buy, then it's a mother to manage. But
oh God, you're right. Yes. So yes, I accept that, Dan. If we have some clients that do not fit that model, you are absolutely right. And wow, is that true? And so, but there's at least whatever the time delay is. Oh God, right? There is at least a cash-on-cash comparison. With SEO, it's different. With content management, it's different. So it's like when, let's say that you're a McDonald's franchisee. Wonderful for you, by the way, because there's a pretty high ticket to get involved in that. When you then build another location, is that an expense? No, it is not. You are not allowed to call that an expense. You're going to have a big hit of money, which you're then going to amortize, right? Well, same with if you build a website. You're building another location. Well, what about building new pages? Well, you're kind of adding to your location. It's kind of like I've added more tables in my restaurant. Is that an expense? No, it is not. It is a payment to a capital account, which you then require to amortize. Why is that? It's because the expense you pay now, you don't get the return immediately. You get it forever into the future. So now here's something I shouldn't actually tell prospects, but I always do anyway, and that is if you stay with us for 90 days, you're going to get a better platform in the first month, and you're going to get 4.2 times 2 times 15, whatever that is, new pieces of content in the subsequent 2 months. If you stopped at the end of that period and you said, well, this is my ROI on that, you'd be wrong, because your impact, your positive impact, would continue to grow for months and months. So what is the actual value of a new piece of content? We don't know. Real example, Corey did something about changing, taking a Facebook page and turning it into RSS. Shit, I don't know what it was. I didn't read it. All I did, all I did was notice in analytics that it currently accounts for 17% of all website traffic. Okay.
Still,
it's actually. I think it's actually higher. I have to go check.
It's like 20%. I think I looked the other day.
Yeah. I mean, I should do update to the update to make and post that. But it's like totally unpredictable. That's the thing, is that content is like lightning rods. You can't predict lightning, but if you put up enough lightning rods, you're gonna get struck by lightning.
Well, I even saw today, Leslie, I was digging through another client's analytics, and because we were doing some email measurement to see how their email campaigns were doing, and when I pulled it up, I was like, but they haven't sent this email yet, and I went back and looked at the tag. That original email was sent in 2013, and it resulted in a $180 sale.
Wow.
And so you don't know, right? You really don't have any idea what you're putting out there, when that may come back. And that's an unusual situation, but I think it's a really good example of email is still content, even though it's sitting in somebody's mailbox and they found it and bought something 2 years later.
Well, that's what magazine publishers talk about as shelf life, right? So how long does an ad in a magazine actually deliver revenue for the advertiser? I mean, there's an average, right? But ultimately, the time limit's the life of the business, life of the advertiser.
Right.
We don't know. I mean, I could pick up an old copy of Inc. magazine, from 10 years ago, and if the company's still in business, there's a brand impression, right? The content's the same way.
The other thing to think about is that while you're putting out content for the avatar, an avatar gets into the interest at any point in time. So it might be a year from now, it might be 2 years from now, and if you're doing kind of what Dan talked about with, doing Q&A and FAQ stuff, you always have people wanting to learn basic stuff, intermediate stuff, advanced stuff about their interest. And
right.
So we would do that in the lawyer space. We'd have an article that went out in maybe 2010, and in 2013 it circles back around. Either there's some new development on it or something of that nature. And so now all of a sudden we're getting traffic on these old pieces of content. So what are we going to do? Oh, have our writer write a new piece of content. Maybe it's more up to date, etc. So.
Totally, yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's how long does that stuff last? I mean, that's really the thing, and it frankly lasts forever. I mean, Dan and I have done content for more than a decade, and that stuff is indexed. Google has a very long-term memory, by the way. Safety concerns about that, but
every now and then I get reminded of something that's 10 years old that I really need to get the last vestiges of taken offline, because people ask me questions about it.
Yeah, it happens, right? I mean, there's stuff out there like, oh, well, that's no longer true. How do I actually publish the retraction, right? How do you actually do that? But yes, I mean, I absolutely encourage everybody to realize that what we consider the free line, internet marketing, as information marketers, we call it the free line, but everybody, ultimately, I don't care what it is, you have an information-rich product. There is a free line for you. And it's out there where your best prospects live. It's not about where your product is really promoted. And just get out there. The example I use all the time is if you're in business and you have an Amex merchant account, you get an email from American Express every month, and what does it have in it? It doesn't have anything about their product. You already have their product. They got nothing else. Instead, what they do is they talk about small business concerns, sales, reducing theft, reducing expenses, getting ready for the holidays, whatever, right? It's the same thing. They're talking about the life and times, need, wants, and desires of their target market. Now, that same kind of thing used in the free line, which they don't really need to do. They're not organized that way, but you do. You're not Amex. And so you take that kind of content, you push that out through your free line, through your blog, through your social spaces. That's how you attract that kind of person to your ultimately to your product. Let's see, what else we got in here?
There's a couple more questions in here that I'll get to, but there's one that always comes up, and it's these articles like abstracts and commentary are shorter. And Google doesn't like thin content, right? What about Panda? Are we going to get hit by Panda? And it's a great question.
Yeah.
However, the answer is Panda's about people really copying and pasting and not adding value. If you're writing original content and you're pushing it out there, or syndicating it out there on Facebook and Twitter, and people are reacting to it, that's adding a lot of value. Twitter's limit is 140 characters. Their stuff gets picked up. So, I mean, whether we're doing 50 words, 100 words to 200 words, they do help. And as long as you're writing them for the avatar, they're going to find it of interest.
Yeah, so I mean, the whole concept of thin content, I mean, what the algorithm does and the way it's described in English are completely, separate concepts, right? It's like, how do you, what is the algorithm for thin content? And I don't even think that thin is probably even the best word to describe it. If we say non-value add, let's just start there, because we can see lots of cases where very small amounts of text ranks extremely well and gets lots and lots and lots of traffic. Let's start with, I don't know, every page with a video on it and nothing but a caption. I mean, the reality is that quote-unquote thin content is more. I mean, if you want to say if you want to define thin content as number of characters, thin content is probably more the norm than the exception, web-wide. Okay. Just because of the way various platforms work. So when we look at Twitter, for example, I mean, none of the links are followed, but last time I checked, I'm going to check again, but the amount of content from Twitter that's indexed is like freaking enormous. Same with Facebook. The majority of Facebook content per se is short rather than long. Again, and billions, literally billions of pages. index from Facebook. So I don't think that thin means short. That's not what that means. Thin in this case means in terms of like not value add, right? So if all we have is, hey, check this out, link, okay, yeah, that's not probably very good. But if we're talking about 50 or 100 words, well, now hang on, that's starting to get into like the median length for a large portion of the web. Look at something like TechMeme, or hell, look at Twitter, right? That stuff gets indexed. Why? Because it really is valuable. You know, rather than just think about your own experience, think about your own interaction with the web. And it's like, hey, Bob, here's this 1,000-word article about X. And you go, okay, well, X is of interest to me, but do I have time to read 1,000 words yet? I have to schedule that. But on the other hand, if I can read a 50-word description that tells me whether or not I should even read the article, that has value to me. Think clipping service. Think, you know, summaries. Think TechMeme. You know, that's where, frankly, most of the web is in terms of an abstraction or a summarization of material. Even the people who take 500 words to say it, in many cases, what they're doing is they're summarizing something that somebody else said or putting their own spin on it. Okay, why should I do 500 words? So if you trust me and I say, this is who should read this and why, link. You know, I don't have to tell you more than that. I don't have to write my own damn article. All I have to do is tell you that I think you should read this if, and then give you the link. That has value. That's the recommendation web. Okay, and so there's no sign at all that Google is in any way rating the kind of stuff that we're doing as anything other than the highest level of content, right? It's just there's no evidence that says that a 500-word article is better than a 100-word article or even a 50-word article. There's no evidence of that at all.
In fact, the article that I did that's bringing in 17 to 20% of our traffic is only, I think, 300 words.
Yeah.
It's not
the rest of it's diagrams. No, it's not. Yeah,
so,
it's well less than what was supposed minimum hero content length, which is also a myth, by the way. And so, as long as we're going into myths, right? Yeah, so I think that is there anything, guys? Do you see anything else here? I mean, I think we've gotten to the major points here, right?
I think there's a good one to end on.
Okay.
And Rick says, "Link building now bad?" ?
Are you kidding me?
I know.
Okay. So let's see, Rick. What's Rick's last name, so I can just reach out and bitch slap him. Let's see.
Wow.
Ouch. Oh, man.
Okay. So yeah, Rick. Anything that has almost anything that has link in the name, except Link Liberation, which has kind of the liberation reverses the link, and so it's okay. It's like not link. Okay. And so yeah, that's bad. And so why? Why is that bad? So when you think about link building, what does that mean? Link building. Okay, so if I'm going to build something, that means that I took action to do that thing, right? And so it's like, wait a minute. So if I took action to create links, wait, is that a natural link? Could I like naturally build a building? No, I can't naturally build a building. I could build a natural building, like out of, I don't know, straw bales or whatever. I don't know how that's
Climb under a rock after it naturally falls down.
I guess. A cave. A cave is a natural building because I didn't build it. So here's the thing. What Google's been very clear about this over and over and over again. It's just that we try to somehow yeah, that's it, boys. Yes, I'm jumping around here. I'm very animated. And so the thing about it is, it's like any action you take that creates a link, how is that a natural link? When you read the guidelines, it's pretty clear. You know, the quote-unquote earned link, if it's not a surprise, like, oh my God, I didn't know that Bob liked my stuff, that's a natural link. Wonders
even if you did know that Bob liked your stuff, telling Bob what anchor text to put in the link and looking for the toolbar page rank of the page that it's on, you're well over the line. You crossed it a long time ago. So,
exactly.
Having stuff on the web that people would want to link to and doing marketing exercises so that people know about it, that's just marketing. But
exactly.
What people typically think of as link building is, blasting out emails, doing, all kinds of crazy stuff. From the last Moz conference I went to, somebody was talking about find out what's on their Amazon wish list and offer to buy that for them so that they'll give you a link. That kind of stuff is not only like unnecessary and wasteful, it's well across the line of what Google has got lots of people trying to stop you from being successful with.
Yeah, and I mean, in fact, they're very clear. It says any domain authority really means nothing. Domain authority.
That's a made-up thing, pal.
It's a made-up thing. There's no Google patent for domain authority. I mean, God, if that was made up in Seattle, not in the Moz, in the Google.
Maybe it was made up somewhere else and then imported to Seattle as a.
Who knows? But no, it's a complete. It's mythology. So.
Look, here's the thing. So what we're doing here, just imagine if you're running a search engine, you have to consider two websites. One of them occasionally publishes something on their blog, and nobody sees it, and nobody does anything about it. Another one of them regularly posts stuff that lots of people make noise about. If you're publishing content and it's making echoes around the internet, that's plenty of signal there to grab onto. You don't have to count plus ones or whatever, but you can tell the difference. It's not that hard. The data is out there. And by the way, you'll get links if there are people looking at your stuff. You'll get links from all over the place, as opposed to only getting all of my links are from PR4 pages, and they all say this. Just don't try to construct natural. Just make natural happen.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's it's
easier and it's cheaper and it's got less risk with it.
Yeah, and this applies to guest blogging too. Guest blogging is okay in limited measure, but if it's your only strategy and say, well, I'm going to guest blog, 20 times a month, and I'm not going to actually do any content on my own site, it's like, yeah, that's going to blow back. Particularly depending on how you do the guest blogging. I've seen some guest blogs that embedded keyword anchors, and it's like, oh my God, you're headed for a wall. It's going to hurt when you hit. So yeah, you got to watch for that stuff. It says there's a video about where Google is going. Well, if it was published by Google, I'll be sure to watch it. But if it was published by anyone else, I put that in the same category of we'll wait and see. But yeah, a lot of people have their own opinions about where Google's going.
I think where Google is going is where they've always been heading, which is the end result is the user. How do we make it best for the user?
Yeah, and so your comment is links may be irrelevant in the future. I don't buy that. So if we look at it again, I did this. I teased this out in some detail, been several weeks back in terms of Hangouts about the search algorithms not actually changed that much. They surrounded it with barriers in order to make sure that they protect the algorithm from the spammers. But the algorithm itself is still based on some pretty simple factors. And the reason it's based on simple factors is because they work. They don't need to invent new stuff. They just need to keep the games out, right? And so think of it as a castle, right? And there's a citadel, and it's still purely pearly white, just like it always was. But outside the castle, there's moats, and there's tar pits, and there's stakes, and bramble patches, and all that stuff, to keep you getting into the castle. Those are the filters. And they're really easy to write, those filters. These pre-filters are very straightforward in terms of, from a computer science perspective, because they're highly focused on particular thresholds, particular kind of characteristics that they know are bad. So it might be, for example, the percentage of links that are from different, page rank pages, because there's very, very simple things you can do there. Or it might be, the percentage of links that are follow or no follow, or percentage of links which are keyword or brand, or things of that nature. There are a bunch of things, because they have like pretty much infinite data, those are things they can easily threshold. And maybe not one of those, it's not like one of those kicks you out, but when you get 2 or 3 or 4 of those, bang, you're done. Right? Those are easy for them to do. And if you get past those, hey, you get the same algorithm we always got back in 2007. There's not much difference there. About DA, domain authority. So Rick, I mean, the problem, so many people are, anal about whatever they latched onto. I don't know that I could send you an article about domain authority. I don't know of one offhand. I haven't actually researched that, frankly. Maybe Dan, maybe you know, but it's like I don't pay attention to that crap because I know it's crap. But out there about the importance of DA, PageRank, or link building. Is it all? No, it's not. PageRank is still alive and well. But so when you really get down to it, there are 3 major factors you need to deal with in order to rank. And then there's a bunch of factors you need to deal with in order to get to rank. And so the things you need to worry about in order to get to rank primarily are total page authority, which is PageRank, and it hasn't really changed that much. And you need to have link text pointing to that makes sense. And so it's really the correlation between the anchor text pointing at the page and the text on the page. It's what I called, what did I call it? I can't even remember the name for that a few years back now. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, so it's about the link reputation and the page reputation. It's about how those conform together. And finally, title tag. You have to have a title tag that actually is going to be sensible for the particular search. If you get those things right, you almost can ignore everything else. I can still get an almost blank page to rank as long as you give me those factors, right? And you can prove this for yourself because almost blank pages still do rank. What are they? They're things that are heavy in flash or in video with very little text attached. So those are the things which are the positive factors. The negative factors are all the filters in front of it that keep you from getting that wonderful algorithm we all enjoyed until January 2011. And so if you can just keep away from doing the bad things, you can still use all the good things. The trick is most people don't know how to do the good things without doing the bad things. And so it's like, well, how do I get good anchor text? Oh, let's spam the world. That's the bad thing, right? So how do you actually get, good anchor text without getting thresholded and therefore not getting the good algorithm? It's called content marketing. Because with the content marketing, what happens is the things that you actually promote as a natural impact, a natural effect of the way your site is organized, those things get promoted. And guess what? You get natural links, right? So that's a long conversation about the gazinnas and gazadas and how that really works. The fact is, if you just do content marketing, you get 2 things going for you right off. First is you get more page rank. You get more total page rank, period. More content, you get more page rank. Link it sensibly internally, that page rank lifts all boats, including your short tail stuff. The second thing is, just by using navigation within your site in a sensible way without keyword stuffing the hell out of it, what happens is that content that you're building also gives you more internal links to the pages you want, and, oh, by the way, exposes all of your content, including the short tail stuff, to a place where people could link to you naturally. So those are, and of course, I assume you can write a title tag that's not stupid keyword stuff or non-clickable. I shouldn't assume that, but that's keyword title tag is like the third.
You can assume that about Rick, just not his clients.
Right, no doubt. And so that's the key. Obviously, the title tag has to make sense. Now, it shouldn't be keyword stuff. It should be clickable. It should attract the click. But at the same time, it should say what the page is about, which probably included the keywords. Right? I mean, if I'm selling a vacation in Mazatlan, I'm going to say Mazatlan vacation. I mean, how obvious is that, right? I'm not going to try to finesse it by saying Mazatlan pipe character, vacation, pipe character, Mazatlan vacation, pipe character, vacations in Mazatlan. That's obviously dumb and non-clickable. Someone's going to look at that and just pass over it in a large percentage of cases. But also, I'm not going to try to avoid the keywords by saying vacations in popular Mexico resorts. That's dumb too. It's not what the page is about. The page is probably about Mazatlan and having a vacation there. Write the damn title to describe that in a clickable way, and you're fine. The rest of it can grow organically. So page rank alive and well. The effect of link text, yes, still there. Link building bad, DA, totally mythical. I think that answers that question. Wow, that was a little rant. Sorry about that. So, yeah, just saying. But no, I don't have an article. You could transcribe that and send that to him. That'd be good. It's like, I'm sorry. You guys have anything to add to that?
We're sorry, Rick.
We're sorry.
It was a good question. We get it all the time.
It was a great question, actually. I mean, they're still out there. I mean, despite
it's a good question. Leslie's just a very bad person.
I'm a bad person. But I mean, it's like, how long have Dan? How long have you and I been talking about this? Don't build links. But yeah. But anyway, and it still goes on. So, and here we are. We're like at this point 2 hours into a Hangout, and so we should try to wrap this up.
We shouldn't just try. We should succeed at wrapping it up.
Yeah, we should just actually do that.
There is no try.
Only do or not do. And so, yes, and I love Mazatlan too. And so, okay, so great. And so that's all I've got for today's show. And Michelle obviously already hung up, and so she's getting ahead of the pack. And so, do we have? Let's see. I don't think we actually have a topic for next week, do we?
Not officially.
Officially. Unofficially? Okay, well, unofficially it's TBD, but by all means, it'll be a great show.
I'll come up with some marketing thing that TBD can be the acronym for, and that's what we'll do next week.
Yeah, that's great. And yes, and Rick, you're very welcome, and sorry that took so long to answer such a short question. And so next week we'll be back with somebody else ranting. I promise I won't rant next week. We'll, Corey, I don't think you've done a rant, have you?
I've ranted about something at some point.
I'm sure. Okay, well, that's good. Just as long as you've done your time. And but we'll come back with some wonderful marketing topic. And but yeah, so we'll see you next week, Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, with the Marketers Braintrust Hangout. Until then, chat with us. Talk to us if you need anything. Otherwise, talk to us.
Send Leslie lots of email.
Do that. Bye-bye now.